Hello, it's Noah Vortex, and decided to revisit philosophy again on this channel. And as always, I'm in this sort of mood of confession, but also philosophy, a little bit with a hammer, I guess, smashing things, smashing values, asking difficult questions, provoking. That's sort of my whole thing, I guess. When you read too much Nietzsche, that shit just gets stuck in your brain for the rest of your life. And it's not good or bad. It is just life. It's just existence, and you gotta roll with it. And So first things first, I'm hopefully gonna have a course on Udemy soon. So you may remember my funny philosophy videos. There's many of them, each about 20 minutes long. And it's quite extensive, really. We're running from nihilism to existentialism, art, culture, basically a lot of philosophy, but modern philosophy, and also look at the latter. So this course is going to be split into three parts. First part's nihilism, existentialism. Second part is going to be basically modern values like humanism. And then the third part is essentially humanism and the framework of that and everything within it, and science. Third part is essentially about creating new values in the cyberculture that we're moving into. So this is actually more contemporary, my own philosophy, but also, referring to other people who are involved in philosophy, So that's hopefully will be on Udemy soon. I'm just waiting back to hear if it gets approved. I guess it'll be 2 days. I'll post an update if it does get the green light. Hopefully it does. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about is the fact that there is I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to censor myself. So I think this is probably one of the biggest problems in culture over the minute. Is people censor themselves all the time. But anyway, hopefully they'll understand that, just because you're teaching philosophy and you're doing it in a comedic way, that, that's necessarily an issue. But we'll see. I mean, I guess it does annoy me sometimes, but the actual fact, real philosophy, real thinking, and really doing the work of thinking is getting harder these days, Like if you it's harder to even play devil's advocate these days or provoke people for the sake of trying to obtain a larger truth that you're trying to bring into awareness in your own life, right? So, I mean, obviously, I've been doing some work on myself for 2 or 3 years. I've been having therapy regularly for 2 or 3 years. I'm in my 3rd year now, actually. And I think this is work that people need to do in general. I think in general, the world would be a healthier place if more people were doing therapy regularly. And it's not hard. It's not easy to get onto the ladder of it because obviously you have to be at a certain place usually in your life to be able to actually practice therapy, but it's enormously useful. In my therapy, I've covered everything from my self-perception, my relationship to women, my relationship to men, my relationship to the world in general, my relationship to everything, basically. My relationship to relationships, my relationship to work, my relationship to my own ego and everything else. It's fascinating and everybody should do it, I think, because there is no maze bigger than the mind itself. And getting to know thyself is a very important process, I think, in life. And I'll say for myself that I've talked in my previous videos about how I basically have 2 extreme sides to myself. I have an well, not even that bad really. Basically, I just have like I've talked about before, I had a mood disorder, I had bipolar, and this expresses itself in different forms. So there's like shadow and light come into my mind and my life on a fundamental level, right? So, and I think, and this is obviously tied in with moods. The mood is temperament. It colours everything basically in your life. But there is a way, I think, of being able to basically work through these moods. So for me, it's been thinking, philosophizing, doing these vlogs, also painting. I've got so much stuff, some stuff up there, but I've got much more on this channel which you can look at if you want to like and subscribe, I guess. Also, just general expression. I think something that's very lacking in our culture is self-expression. We are living in a culture that is which is funny actually, because when I was growing up, we thought the internet was going to be this huge thing where, like prosumer culture, which is an old video. Well, actually, a friend of mine, internet friend of mine, recommended it to me a long time ago. We thought we'd be both producers and consumers of art, basically online. And there is a lot of that out there. I follow many channels of people who are doing this work. I'll just name a few. I mean, one of the main YouTubers that I'm really interested in at the minute is Vlad Vexler, who is also a philosopher at a much more academic level than me, I must admit. Conventionally has an academic background, talks a lot about Russian politics and philosophy in general, and health as well. I mean, it's a very well-rounded philosopher who, he's taking a lot of things in and trying to really do the work of figuring out the current situation in Russia and Ukraine. So there are people out there that do that, and I'll just try and think of some other examples while I'm here. Obviously, Philosophy Tube is a big person in the philosophy scene on YouTube, and I've followed them for a very long time actually, and they have a fascinating channel, fascinating journey, fascinating everything, fascinating general view on things. And interestingly, in Philosophy Tube's example, obviously Philosophy Tube, I hope they don't take any offence, like obviously they started off in a different body and now they're in a new body. She's a trans woman. Not many people could say they've done that sort of journey, as a human being. And it's interesting if you actually relate that to sort of, I guess if you think of, I think the ancient world in a lot of ways had a much more healthy way, the ancient world had a much more healthy relationship to their own sexuality. The ancient people of the ancient world had a much more healthy relationship to their own understanding of sexuality, sex and sexuality, and how that relates to ego, I guess. For sure they did, actually. For sure they did. Because there wasn't really any like categorization so much, I think, in large parts of the ancient world. Now, I'm no scholar of, the ancient world. I mean, what's that? There's a vlogger, Lady of the Library. Now, she is a scholar of ancient Roman civilization and, all this sort of ancient civilization, ancient Western civilization. So yeah, there's just three people that I've like people who are doing the intellectual work of the now. And I understand in a way that not everybody has it in them to be an intellectual, but I wish, in a sense, that we lived in a culture where that was a priority, because I think in a lot of ways the mess we're in with populism, with Trump, with I think if Putin in the East and Trump in the West, and I know that Trump's not in power now, but it wasn't even that long ago that he was, or Biden is a bit of a squib, a bit of the same old. But anyway, we've got the politicians we deserve from the culture we have. I think in some respects it's interesting in terms of the development of technology, how much are our algorithms writing us and how much are we writing the algorithms. This is interesting to me, obviously, as a programmer, because I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's all pattern recognition, basically. So, I mean, in the data, they have, all the companies have huge data sets. Like someone at Google who runs YouTube, they have a huge amount of data sets. So they know about me. They know what music I like. They know what videos I'm likely to watch when I'm in a sort of funny mood, or if I'm sort of feeling whatever mood or emotion I'm in, basically. But then it sort of interestingly reminds me of this book by M.T. Anderson called Feed. It's a good YA young fiction novel. It's one of the first YA young fiction novels I read when I was basically, I think it was early 20s, basically. I was coming back from Rome. And in this book, basically, there's this character, I can't remember his name, it's been a long time since I read it, but Head or something, funny name actually, but basically he's a bit of like he's a consumer node, basically. He just consumes the internet. The internet is in everybody's head, like literally in people's heads, and he sort of starts falling for this girl, but she's a bit of a rebel, right? And she tries to actively go against and do actions which are against the algorithm. So she sort of messes with the algorithm, basically just messes around with the algorithm, just likes things she doesn't like, or screws around with it. But it's an interesting story, like a moral tale in some respects, because it does go all tits up in one way or the other if you go against the system. Now, you could say that the system now is a sort of technocratic system in some respects. We have Silicon Valley, we have Silicon giants, we have the richest people in the world are tech billionaires, right? They're people who either were entrepreneurs or they started in programming, and I'm in this world. I work in the world of tech. I am a tech person myself. It's by accident or design. I've just have a certain passion for programming. So this is a very interesting question for me, how can tech move forward? Like, I've done the previous vlogs on solar punk. My idea, if I was to have any for like the future of the world, would be a sort of solar punk future where we live in tandem with the ecosystem, right? But there's also a little bit of cognitive dissonance going on with me, because I have that whole Nietzschean philosophy which has inspired me a lot. And I sort of see Nietzsche as it's a guide to self-improvement, and it's a continual process. You're never the Übermensch, because the Übermensch cannot really exist. I mean, the Superman, there is no such thing. Sorry to spoiler alert, ladies and men, or whatever you like. There is no such thing as a Superman, as in like a perfect man. Now, you could go into the realms of post-humanism, which also relates to Nietzsche, and say, well, maybe this means we need to evolve out of being human. And I guess Nietzsche's Übermensch is sort of the first conception in contemporary philosophy, or modern philosophy, actually, to be sorry, of the post-human, some being that is not human. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's an interesting one to riff on anyway. So, okay. I don't know what the point of this video is, really. I guess basically I'm just verbalizing again, sort of philosophical thoughts come from my head. And I find if I don't verbalize this, this is a tip for anyone else who's a sort of aspiring philosopher, or somebody who just likes really thinking deeply about anything. Do a video diary like this. I mean, honestly, it's like, it helps me. I mean, I have therapy anyway, but it actually helps me to just offload all this quite fast stream of consciousness I have usually. Like, I'm going to have to slow down a bit now, because I think my mind sort of races quite a lot, and I'm even aware of the fact that often it can sound like it's sort of, I can remember someone who once said on one of my first YouTube videos that it sounded like the way that I communicated was intelligent, but also no. They said it sounded like Paris. I sounded like Paris Hilton or something. I was very offended, to be honest. But like, like Paris Hilton's all right. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, she's an alright woman. I'm sure. Like, she's like, everyone's seen that tape as well. Well, actually, I haven't seen it. To be fair, like, I actually haven't seen that tape. Like, literally, haven't seen it. But like, I mean, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. Like, I watch. I'm a 36-year-old guy. I watch porn occasionally, but I've not seen that particular one. I am a filthy beast, like every man. Anyway, yeah, I don't know where to go from here. So I'm going to be I'll just leave it at that. I mean, it's basically just a ramble vlog for the day. I'm going to be posting up some art. I'm working on a painting at the minute. I'm just sort of recording, doing that, so there'll be a time lapse of that soon. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I've given you a few channels you can check out if you're interested in philosophy. Also, if you're a subscriber, I don't know if you can see the videos, so just leave comments and I'll try and follow your channels back, of course. And let's keep conversations going about philosophy, thinking, art, culture, where we're going. Everything feels very, very odd at the minute. I was even saying to my mate the other day, I was like, or was it today? But I was like, I wouldn't even be that surprised if we're in a black hole now. And let me just explain that. It sounds very bizarre. It sounds delusional. I'm not saying I actually believe we're in a black hole, but there is a time does feel certainly broken. I don't know about any of you, but time is starting to feel a little bit broken. We're having all this sort of it feels like time is maybe a loop, right? So it feels like, what's that? That's the thing in Star Trek, Mobius loop or whatever. It feels almost like time is just broken a bit because we're getting like, in terms of ideology, and I mean, I'm not saying I literally believe or can prove. I mean, I'm going to sound like a crazy person, right? I am aware of that, but it does feel like on some level, time is just sort of out of whack at the minute, really. It's a thought. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying that time itself is broken. But who knows, really? Stranger things have happened. That's like a joke, isn't it? Time laugh there, you know. That was my best Count from Sesame Street laugh anyway, which is how it goes for me. Anyway, God, what am I? I'll leave it at that. That's just my ramble for the day. Bloody hell, 18 minutes of offloading, Peace, man. Peace, women. Peace, everybody. Peace, everybody. And, yeah, have a good one, I suppose. Diddly-dee-dee.